continuing down that solo summer track. It is now time for a current critique, and this time it is Transformers Rise of the Beast, although I often want to say Beast Wars because of the cartoon. The thing is that I have very low expectations for Transformers films, broadly speaking, because I feel like they're mostly forgettable. So I hope that this new outing changes my perspective on the franchise in general. But you'll find that out after I roll the open and I do the current critique for Transformers Rise of the Beast. Before I break it all down, the current critique for Transformers Rise of the Beast, I gotta talk to you about why this video is going out and why this channel exists. It's nice, it's simple, it's clear, and it's concise. It's because I, here from the channel Mr. Super Oz, I wrote a 68-page graphic novel called Everlasting Survivors, Volume 1, all day long. If you follow the link in the description of this video, you can pick yourself up one of 5 cover options. There are posters, there are hats, there are shirts, there are all kinds of fun things. And so now that that is out of the way, it's time to break it down. Transformers Rise of the Beast. Runs 2 hours, 7 minutes, and it came out in 2023. There is a line of dialogue about a vile god, a planet eater. It reminds me of a conversation I had earlier in the week about how the term God feels thrown about too often in media, just to seemingly mean strong character or overpowered character, and not necessarily God in the sense that we, or I, tend to think of it in the sense of creator. And so, I don't know, it's just an observation. It is your time to lead the Maximals, Optimus Primal. Great line. Big fan of Optimus Primal and, the Maximals. I grew up liking Transformers Beast Wars, not realizing that it looked really bad production-wise. It wasn't until I tried rewatching as an adult where I was like, oh, wow, they were bare-bonesing this whole thing and just doing the best they could, but that show, at least in the first season, I'll say, had a lot of shortcomings. Has Unicron always been the Transformers version of Galactus? I'm not familiar enough with the overall lore of Transformers to even realize if this is new for the movie or if he's always been their Galactus. And same with Scourge. Has he always been the herald of Unicron, like a herald of Galactus in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, look how much they've got me brainwashed. The Marvel Universe, the Marvel Comics world. I almost said cinematic because Galactus hasn't even shown up yet, but the pop culture has it so that if you say Marvel, you gotta say Cinematic Universe, it feels like. This movie is taking place in 1994, and I wish I remembered what year the Bumblebee movie took place in, because I feel like it was like late 80s, maybe early 90s, but I'm just not sure. It's always been, at least in my opinion, a fault of, or shortcoming of the Transformers films, that things just feel non-monumental and easily forgettable. I mean, they're good for high-powered fights, like CGI fights, if you will, and sometimes you'll have some witty lines here and there, but like longevity, as far as like memorable content, always been something I thought they lacked. Seeing the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers shirt on the main human's little brother, main human being Noah, little brother being Chris, that was nice. And it's quite unfortunate that Chris, the little brother, is sick. Not sure with what specifically, but he's got one of those I won't say terminal because that means he's gonna fall to it, but one of those things that's persistent. I'm not a fan of the so-called jokes this movie keeps trying to do, like a guy who's outside Chris and Noah's apartment talking about how that he's given into the capitalist man. I'm like, dude, you want to make money? The guy's trying to make money. Everybody's trying to make money. Why are we making anti-capitalist comments? And then the mom telling Noah to laugh at the white person's jokes because they like that. I'm like, who doesn't like when you laugh at their jokes? That's just kind of why jokes exist. So I think that this thing's really missing early on with things that I think that it believes it should be knocking out of the park. On that same subject of something I think the movie believes it's doing quite well, but to me, as soon as I see it, is a disconnect, is we see a new primary human protagonist. This time she's a female, who's an intern, and when she's using the internet to look up and determine facts about art, everything is just loading so quickly that it takes me out of the entire scene. Like, I hate to think about a movie losing me so early, but like, the internet in 1994 was not the internet of 2023, so it should be moving a lot slower, if you will. Why is the lab tech boss lady treating the new intern like she's dumb? Or like she's dumb, or just that like the boss is evil? Like, I don't get it. A lot of the characterizations of the associated characters seem very disingenuous. Whether it's the boss of Elena, the intern, or the guy leaning outside of Noah's place, it's like people who aren't Noah Diaz or Chris Diaz just feel very one-dimensional. So that's not good. And speaking of not good, just the level of downer that we get when Chris is turned away from the hospital to get treatment, man, that's a real bummer. And I find it so weird that all the trailers or commercials post the movie releasing give this thing like a 10 out of 10. Oh, it's the best one ever. When I'm struggling to get behind almost anybody except for Chris. I mean, I'm mildly with Noah, but like everybody other than those two people, it's like I'm not a big fan right now. We return back to Elena the intern and her boss, and I really don't like either of them, and it's frustrating. After Noah doesn't get a job, and the hospital turns his brother away for treatment, he goes to the street leaning guy, and he's working on making money, and wouldn't you know it, he's gonna go steal something. And at first my instinct is he's gonna steal something from the museum where Elena works. Then it turns out that he's actually accidentally stealing a transformer. Just, he doesn't know he's stealing a transformer, he thinks he's just stealing a car. And after he gets in the car, it gets a distress call from Optimus, and we're off to the races from that point. When the car drives itself to the meetup point, it's the first one to arrive, and it introduces itself to Noah and is played by Pete Davidson. That car itself is, it's called Mirage. And thankfully, Pete Davidson's Mirage has really gotten me more into the movie than almost any other character, I believe, because he's just so freaking fun. We find out during the Transformers meetup that my initial instinct that Noah would be robbing the place where Elena works was true. It just was going to have an intermediary piece of the puzzle put in, which was him meeting the Transformers. Because what Elena has is what the Transformers need to get home to, their place of origin. But it's also what is needed to prevent the Terracons, the new Decepticons. I mean, not new, but the new villains and the non-Decepticon villains, from stopping them from taking over by bringing Unicron to the world. This version's this cinematic universe is Galactus. It's so fun watching Noah freak out with Mirage driving itself, and just Rick the thief. He abandoned Noah, and it's a lot of the movie really picks up once Mirage is introduced. It's nice to see Bumblebee coming into the picture, or the film, given how upbeat and positive the Bumblebee standalone film was. I really enjoyed both the human that got Bumblebee up and running, and I mean, heck, John Cena did a really fun job. I think he's the first character in the world who was like, hey, they're called Decepticons, maybe we shouldn't trust those guys. So that was cool. Yeah, it takes almost all of the other Transformers, Mirage and Bumblebee, and the other vehicles, the other Autobots, to convince Optimus Prime to let Noah help them get the transwarp key that Elena has, the magic MacGuffin that's going to get them home or prevent Omicron from, or Unicron, whatever. Omicron, that's funny. That's one of the variants. My bad. But whatever. The MacGuffin, the thing that moves the story forward. While Noah is attempting to get the transwarp key from the museum, Optimus is explaining to Bumblebee that he knows he's had a good experience with a human, but Optimus still doesn't trust aliens that aren't his own kind. And it's just nice that they're referring back to the prior film that was, so upbeat. I think Bumblebee might be my most, probably, it's either my most enjoyed or my second most after the first one, because it's either Bumblebee or Transformers 1. Not sure which. I find it puzzling that when Elena sees Noah, she immediately thinks that he's trying to take what she thinks is an ancient artifact, which kind of is, I guess, the transwarp key, and he tries to talk her down and then says, well, it's kind of accurate that I'm trying to take it. He explains the truth. She doesn't believe him, obviously. But the thing that puzzles me about is, like, lady, it isn't even yours, the thing that you're trying to prevent him from taking. So it's like, why are you being so, I don't know, adversarial about it? I don't know. Like I said, I struggle to understand the motivations of some of these characters. As Noah is trying to get the key from Elena, the Terracons attack, and Optimus and the crew come to save the day, but they barely even save the day. I mean, I don't know. They don't even save the day, really. They lose the key. Optimus gets beat down. It's a lot of fun watching the Transformers not dominate. I wish they did a better job of introducing a lot of the characters. Like, it took me far past where we're at, even in the review, to know Elena's name. I'm only saying it because I finished the film. For all my notes, I just wrote intern girl until they finally told us. And, like, I didn't know any of the Terracons' names except for Scourge, who's the, herald of Unicron. And it's just, I don't know. I just think they could have done a little better in some of the aspects of the storytelling. Scourge kills, well, as much as you can kill a robot. He kills Bumblebee, takes the spark out of him. I think they called it something like that. And then we get introduced to the Maximals, looking extra strong and, extra strange even compared to the other Transformers. The first Maximal we meet is Airazor, and it's freaking humongous. Like it it can't even be mistaken for any bird that I recognize. So not entirely certain what the logic is behind it, other than, robots are big. Something, I guess. Yeah, I notated. I said it only took 50 minutes to clear up who/what the villains are. Because just like Elena, I didn't know they were called Terracons. I just assumed they were Decepticons. And it's the next scene where we learn Elena's name is Elena. And that's, like an hour and 15 minutes in or something like that. So it's just odd that one of your primary human heroes doesn't even get named for such a long amount of time. Before before Noah can go off to help the Transformers save the day, he has to say goodbye to Chris, because that's his little brother. He's the guy who he's kind of saving the world for. And it's fun because they call each other Sonic and Tails, which I just think is so cute and enjoyable. I like their relationship a lot. While Noah is basically saying goodbye to his little brother because he's got to go save the world, Pete Davidson's Mirage is outside, and Chris, who's a smart kid, he figures out that Mirage is a robot, and so Noah says that we're work friends, which I thought was hilarious, but even better, Pete Davidson says, "Work friends? You've been inside me," which is, oh my goodness, Pete Davidson. I don't know if they give out awards for, I guess they do, like, best comedic performance. I don't know if they do it in a supporting role, but he deserved it in this one, because, like, best comedic supporting role in voice acting. There we go. If that's an award, give it to him, because he's got some great lines in this film. After Noah says his goodbyes to Chris to go save the day, we meet one of the trippiest Autobots, a thing called Stratosphere, Lord of the Skies. He's just like a big plane carrying thing. Pretty bold, Noah thinking you can destroy half of the transwarp key by just being a regular old human. Because he and Elena are chit-chatting while inside of the Stratosphere Autobot, and saying how that they've got to destroy the key so that Unicron can't kill or devour the Earth. Elena's not sold, but she seems open to the possibilities, and obviously Noah's not convinced that the Autobots leaving would even be good for Earth, because he's willing to make it so they can't ever go home. Mirage once again steals the show by giving Noah a piece of himself to use as like a weapon or a gauntlet. It's very interesting, but because Pete Davidson can't stop saying off-the-wall crazy stuff, he says, "Don't ask what part of me that is." So, Mirage, 100%, the best part of this freaking movie. With this movie being called Transformers Rise of the Beasts, I would have expected more. I don't know. Beasts. Just a crazy stab in the dark thought there. But we've met one of the Maximals, and it isn't even the one I wanted to meet. There's just about an hour remaining of the movie before we finally meet more Maximals. We get Optimus Primal, awesome, and once again Mirage with the great line says, he didn't. It's not that he says, but when Mirage meets Optimus Primal, he calls him Donkey Kong. Mirage is just 100% the best character in this whole thing. And I give Pete Davidson credit often, but I think if it was like Jim Carrey or any other funny person with great execution, I think the character, the way the character is written is what I'm liking. Like, Pete Davidson's not bad at it, but like I think it could have been, even if it was a different actor, it'd still be good because it's fun lines. In a big fight between the Terracons and the baby faces, the good guys, Airazor gets shot by something that ends up corrupting it and turning it to Scourge's side. I think it's an interesting idea, but I would have liked for it to have been at least hinted at, talked about, set up in some way. They could have easily have done it in the opening of the film before they even came to Earth. Show Scourge taking something else over. Just nitpicking, I guess, but once again, the bad guys come away with the MacGuffin. They now have the entire transwarp key, and it is time for, well, Earth to be devoured, I guess, because the heroes just aren't good at that hero game. After the Transformers lose the transwarp key, I begin to wonder, is there really a great Transformers movie? I know I like Bumblebee from my recollection, and I feel positive memories toward the first movie, but is it really a truly great one? I started taking just random notes about how that, someday we'll have to do an all or nothing just to refresh my memory on the franchise, because I know I've watched all of them, and I like Marky Mark, and I like Shia LaBeouf's performances, but I just don't feel like anything really is got that oomph to it that it just really, because there are definitely things within the MCU, even the DCU, or DCEU, I guess, that stand out. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative, but it's hard for me to recall something that really truly stands out with Transformers. So, yeah, just ramblings. I'll give the movie credit. After winning 2 fights on the bad guy side, when we're in that big final fight and Unicron is coming to Earth, I literally notated down. I said, "Are the heroes going to win this one?" I really give Avengers Infinity War credit for me believing that a big movie franchise could end with the bad guys coming out on top, because they really set the precedent there with Infinity War. But what it ends up doing, actually, when Unicron comes, he brings, I don't think on purpose, but he brings like a new spark, if you will, to the Earth, which brings back Bumblebee to brings him into the big fight. And then Mirage makes a big sacrifice in the final fight because Scourge is trying to kill Noah. And then something I don't recall ever happening in a prior film. And then it makes me question the entire timeline, because this is happening in 1994. And so, again, that's another reason why I need to go back and rewatch all of them, because I'm like, how does this timeline play out? But anyway, Mirage, he takes a big old beating from Scourge to save Noah. And Chris and Noah are talking on Mirage's walkie, or whatever, his comms, I mean. And I was like, man, is Mirage dead? And even the brothers are questioning it. And then Mirage is like, oh, I got a little bit left in me. Let me help you out. Basically, I mean, he doesn't say let me help you out, but he gifts, Mirage gifts Noah with an armored suit, much like he gave him that gauntlet. He is now giving him every piece of him that's still functional to fight the final fight. And in the end, the baby faces win. Elena puts in a code to stop the MacGuffin from destroying the world, and then there's just a significant amount of time left in the movie, which is unexpected. So the humans are going back to human stuff, and the Autobots are going back to hiding stuff. And so Elena's on the news talking about how she made this big, massive discovery, and Noah's watching her while he goes into some random job interview at I don't know, it looks like just a warehouse maybe. And while he's in his interview, the interviewer is making all these snide remarks about how he knows where he was at, and it's great because when he calls him out on being in Peru for this big fight with the aliens, Noah says, I don't know what you're talking about, and the interviewer's like, good answer. I thought that was fun. And so the interviewer, or the job interview that Noah had, was unknowingly with G.I. Joe, which is very fun and interesting. And it makes me wonder if we're going to get a Hasbro toy shared universe franchise. Is it going to be Transformers, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers? What else? Maybe friggin', I don't even know what else they make really off the top of my head. My Little Pony maybe? That would be weird. But yeah, so overall, there were ups and there were downs and there were positives and there were negatives. I give it, just straight down the middle, I give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's a fine movie. I don't think it's the best of the bunch. In the post-credit scene, Pete Davidson returns as Mirage because since Noah's interview, he put together and got parts and all the pieces back together, and his street buddy Rick was like, "Oh, why are you wasting time with this car? Bet it won't even start." And Noah's like, "Hey, Mirage, show him." And then Pete Davidson gives him crap about like, "Oh, you didn't think I'd start? Haha, I'm a robot or something." But yeah, it's a fine movie. It's not the best, but it's most likely not the worst. And I'm definitely intrigued to see where the G.I. Joe and hopefully Power Ranger tie-ins go, because I know that Hasbro makes all 3 of those toy lines. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed my review, and let me know what you thought of Transformers Rise of the Beasts in the comments.